Jesus spent a lot of time talking about money. Today we learn about his teachings on having purposeful wealth instead of wealth having us. Starting with Luke chapter 12, verse 13, somebody in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Verse 14, Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." A man wanted Jesus to tell his brother to divide the inheritance with him. Jesus didn't agree to be their arbiter, but instead took the opportunity to teach about wealth and life. He warned them to guard against all kinds of greed. He added that life is not a matter of how much possessions or wealth one has. Let's unpack what this verse means. To begin, Jesus' own words are pointing out against all kinds of greed. Greed is often defined as self-seeking. Being all about self gives very little place in our hearts for God. He is to always be prioritized as number one, as God in our lives, because anything less is idolatry. Then Jesus went on to expand what he was saying through a parable. Verse 16, and he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I'll store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but not rich toward God." The rich man was abundantly blessed with a rich harvest. All he thought of was how to store his crops. Therefore, he built bigger barns to store his surplus grain. The next thing he thought of was that since he had enough for many years, he would take life easy to enjoy himself, eat, drink, and be merry. But he forgot the source of his blessings. He thought only of himself and how he would enjoy his wealth himself. Hence, Jesus dramatically concluded the parable with God saying to him that very night his life would be taken away from him, and sarcastically asked him then who would get what he had stored up for himself. God called him a fool for not thinking beyond himself and his enjoyment. The clincher is this last sentence Jesus spoke. Then is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but not rich toward God. Friends, what meaning do our lives have when we're just focusing on just ourselves? God is not against us having wealth, but He's against wealth having us. When our wealth takes hold of us, it makes self-seeking and greedy for more wealth till we get consumed with the idea that life is all about more and more wealth and possessions. Instead, Jesus implied that we have to be rich towards God. Can we be rich towards the King of the universe who already owns everything? In Matthew 25 verse 40, Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me." We can in small and big ways use what the Lord has blessed us with to bless others. In so doing, we're doing it to the Lord. Friends, God wants us to be blessed, to be a blessing. We don't have to fear that we would not have enough. His word in 2 Corinthians 9:8 says, "And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you, having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work." He would make His grace abound in us so that we will have more than enough to have an abundance for every good work. In conclusion, know that every blessing is from the Lord. He makes us rich in every way for a purpose, so that we may be rich towards Him by being a channel of His blessings to others around. Let's not store it all up for ourselves. Let's be a blessing. Now we come to the discussion questions. Number 1. How was the rich man in the parable greedy and selfish? Number 2. How can you be rich toward God in your circumstances? Number 3. Can you share a testimony when God moved your heart to be a good steward of wealth? Let's be a blessing.